Good morning. I'm rested. We're going to have to do this in 3 parts. I have one when we got here, and then I'll have one where it's pictures of the Sawtooth and Redfish Lake and the salmon, and then I have maybe 4 parts. And then I have the one yesterday I did where I was exhausted. And then now, first a caveat to my daughter doesn't like it when I disparage my face. So, aren't I beautiful today? Yes, I'm gorgeous. Anyway, this company, and I'm not going to name its name because I don't want people looking it up and, going blast, blast, blast on social media because they're sweet people. I think they have good intentions. But there's a certain corporate model where you don't tell everybody everything about the job. And they don't have any training, not even a death by PowerPoint where it's repeated over and over again. Read the handbook again, and the 24-hour on-call is buried in there. And they don't really mention that. Our supervisor down the way, Red, been doing this a very long time, has a lot of stories. He mentioned at the end, well, we're here 24/7. And when we talked to him yesterday when he came by, because we gave notice, he was like, I understand this isn't for everybody and stuff. And I said, it's the 24-hour availability and the having to meet and greet every single person that comes in here with these documents and fill it out with them, for them, that takes so much time. You do have to deal with a lot as a host. Not only are you cleaning fire pits, picking up trash, dealing with the toilets, which is no big deal. We have 59 sites in 3 campgrounds, and it would be more if it'd be more like 67 if one part of one campground wasn't shut down. So, isn't that pretty back there? Fog. We have fog every morning in here in Idaho, and I remember that. It's cool. So, the sun is just coming out. It's almost 8. It's finally breaking through. Where was I? Anyway, yeah, you've got that, but then you also have a closet with firefighting tools, and you're supposed to be trained in that as well. No, there's nothing in it. The box has been broken into. There's no lock on it, and there's nothing in it. I know the manager here is completely overwhelmed. He has 52 campgrounds to patrol and talk to hosts, and a lot of them don't have hosts, so he ends up going and probably checking them himself. They have a maintenance guy that delivers water and does fix-its and stuff, and he's been working for the company 3 years. They wanted him to be a manager, and he said no. He was a host, and it didn't pay enough, so now he's doing this, and that's all he does is run around in a truck and do maintenance and give and deal with the water. The one gentleman we talked to got hired 10 years ago because he had a degree in water management and they needed somebody. I know a lot of corporate models don't dovetail into every situation, and a corporate model of how to run a company doesn't fit in a campground scenario. They need to upgrade how they pay. They need to upgrade communications. Even if they had a radio system between host and supervisor here would be good. Our supervisor has a landline. We have no signal and no landline. There are solar systems that have been put in hosts' sites that there are no instructions, and most people don't even know how to run the solar system. They just kind of go in. One host quit because he couldn't run that solar system. He thought he could run his whole trailer off of that like a landline, and it doesn't work that way. You might be able to charge your batteries or run your lights and a TV for a couple hours, and that's it. And it's a Forest Service system. And they have to the company maintains it. They have to put the panels on, take them off. So that's that, that kind of thing. People come here just like we did. We're hard workers. We're willing to work, but we also hike and bike and want to go see the scenery and take a trip to Boise maybe. We get one day off. And that's not a whole day. That's after you do your rounds in the morning. You can go off and you got to come back and do rounds again. Pick up the money, check things. All we did was laundry and grocery shopping. We had to go all the way to Ketchum to do it because Chalice up the other way really isn't conducive to getting all that done unless unless you want to eat out of cans. So I we like the idea, but you can't have anything else that you want to do. You can't go anywhere. We popped into town for a few hours to get some Wi-Fi and pick up a couple more things at the store and just relax a minute away from the campground. Came back and we got slammed. I mean, it was storm coming. 6 people showed up. They're rushing around trying to settle in, particularly a tent person. And we're supposed to stand there and fill out their blue tag and get all their information. And it takes time. It takes at least a half an hour if they're willing. And here's this massive storm coming. And we didn't know if it was going to hit or not, but it was certainly coming this way. And they're getting lightning and bolts. And so we just hand them a white ticket and we say, here, do that when you can. Welcome. If you need anything, we got wood. Let's get going. And we got to get them settled in. They got to settle in. They can't be standing there with a host who's trying to figure out some paperwork. And that's not going to work. They can't pay you enough. It was $1,200. I understand why the low pay, because they've been through several hosts and you don't want to pay them more for less work. I mean, some of them have stayed a couple days and just disappeared. They didn't even give notice. They just left things. They lost keys. They left trucks dirty. They didn't clean up. They just bailed. And we're not that kind of person. We gave notice, told them we were not doing the blue tags, that we don't have it. It's just too much. And we're asked to leave after July 4th. So okay, we'll do that. Red likes us. He could see that Paul's a hard worker, but he does understand this isn't for everyone. And he mentioned that he doesn't do any of that other stuff. He might throw a pole in the water, but he's there to do this job 24/7. I also understand the low pay. A lot of people on Social Security who are retirees doing this can only work so much of a month before it does eat into your Social Security. There's a level where you cannot work if you have Social Security over a certain amount, or they start taking $1 for every 3 you earn over that amount. So they can't pay them a lot. But what they could do as a company for hosts is give them camping vouchers. A lot of these people, like us, travel year round. So to have a voucher or two in kind that you can use at one of their other campgrounds. Problem is they're all forest campgrounds, so they close, and there's no way to give them they don't have any winter, apparently not very many winter venues. So that's something. Right now, the companies are dealing with their 5-year bids. Many of them, it's almost like all of them. I don't know. I was reading that bid process can be a problem for a lot of people. They can lose contracts. There's a lot more competition now in concessions than there used to be. A lot of locals have picked up. The Forest Service is kicking people out who are not doing the job and taking all the money. The problem with it is the money doesn't go to the Forest Service, not directly. Even the percentage that the companies have to pay back after they do the in-kind work and deduct that, doesn't amount to much. And that money goes to the general treasury. It does not go to the Forest Service, who has to take care of all the maintenance, the roads, the railings, the tree. The company has to pay for the trees to get cut here in the campground. They have to pay for noxious weed disposal with the herbicides. They have to take care of the picnic tables, the rocks, the meadows, the roads. The Forest Service has other aspects that they do, but they are so thin on the ground, so thin in funds because the House won't budget that in. The House of Representatives holds the purse strings to our government, and they won't give them the money. Everything goes to the military. Everything virtually goes to the military, and the industrial, the military-industrial complex, as Eisenhower called it, and then it's returned to them in a budget, which last year when we were talking to a forest ranger in Colorado who has to patrol 3 national forests with 6 staff, with $3,000 for maintenance and to fix things. There are signs blown out. There are people who destroy meadows. They got to move rocks to keep people from going places they shouldn't. The signage alone is expensive. If you go to a park and you see faded signs, that's because they've had no money to fix those things. And it takes time to fix things out in the wilderness and in the national forest. You've got to send people up those roads. You've got to send people up those trails. In 20 years, I've seen 2 young rangers coming down off a trail in central Colorado. You mostly don't see them walking anymore. They don't have the funds to hire. So people complain about the Forest Service, but it's not their fault. These companies are doing the best they can. They're using a corporate model, so it's not their fault. They're not thinking outside the box a lot of the time about how to keep people hired and how to maintain these things. They're trying to make a profit, which they can make a tidy profit if the season's good and it starts and there's nothing bad goes wrong. I know that the insurance companies cover their liability, and we know how the insurance companies are pulling out. They're making it difficult. They pulled out and wouldn't insure 414ers in Colorado that are partially on private property. The guy had to close the mountaintops down. He couldn't let people go through his property anymore. Even though those are accessible, he can't let them do that because the insurance company wouldn't cover his property anymore. And the state couldn't pass the bill. The right wing would not pass the bills to help cover these situations. They're still working on it. He's working on it. But yeah, 4 very popular 14er mountains are no longer accessible. It's the Lincoln Group. So we will probably do this someday. We'll host and stuff, because especially if we're not going off, but they've got to change that 24 on-call. That's just not right. You can't be responsible for the campground 24/7 and be available. It's just not possible. It's obtrusive. It verges on exploitive. They didn't tell us this. We were not given what our hours are. They suggest you do everything from 3 to 7 in the handbook, but that's not the reality. You're not going to be able to do that. So I really want people to know, if you're going to do a hosting job, really look at what their expectations are. Each company's slightly different. The state's different. The Forest Service itself is different. They do have some volunteer positions, but they train, they say, and all that stuff. But yeah, it's a lot more to it. They brought us our water, which was cool. We could charge off the solar because we know how to do that if we wanted to. We got free camping here. That's part of the package. You get camping, which is around just about $10 a day. But the amount of money that you get is about $40 a day. And they don't pay both partners. They pay one partner, which is usually the male, I must add. I've seen female hosts, but it's mostly the male. And then the woman gets to support him, which takes time. I'm doing all the paperwork. Paul, he says that's just kind of beyond him. It would take him too much time to learn. I've gone out and helped him. We've helped the people together because I saw him overwhelmed, but I don't get paid. He does. So when you're talking about 2 people for $40 or $50 a day, if you count the camping and the water they provide, it amounts to about $250 a day, $250 an hour. And Paul has worked at least 8 hours a day, morning and night, since we got here. And we were working Sunday. We put out a fire. We checked people because they saw us sitting in the host site. We didn't officially get hired until Monday was our start day. So we will have worked about a week and a couple of days by the time we've left here. So I don't think we'll get much of anything. We won't get much money, believe me. It's been an interesting experience. We've met some great people. There's some people who traveled Canada that we're going to talk to and see how they did that. They live in Mexico and they traveled to Canada. Really cool. And Paul's been able to chat up some really interesting people. People are great. They're honest. They've come to us. Oh, you undercharged us. We put trash in there. They can pay $6 to put trash in there in our buckets, and somebody put $30. So they put 6 bags of trash in there, or 5. No name, nothing. To him. And Red said he'd never seen that. He'd never seen people actually pay for the trash. I said, yeah, they've got it right here as trash. He went, wow. There's somebody with an abandoned trailer. We didn't know what to do. There's a lot of things. I read the class 1 misdemeanors. I read the class 2 felonies, the stuff that you can call the police on. We're told in the handbook we have to call a supervisor and then the manager first before we call the police. I guess people have called the police for all kinds of silly things, and they want to make sure you know what you're doing, and I understand that. But if it's life-threatening, I'm calling the 911 first and then them. They don't even know that I done crisis. They don't know that Paul was, that we do know how to respond, but I particularly know how to respond and what to respond to. We'd have to go to town to call services, this one neighbor, they've got Starlink. They offered to let us use their Starlink. How kind. I mean, if there was an issue, and they're only here for 4 or 5 days. So yeah, there's some things that the company could do to attract. They said that they lost almost all of their hosts because they got old and quit. I'm not sure about that. Doesn't seem like that. Doesn't make sense to me that you lose them all. So something shifted, something changed, a new policy. They made bank in 2020. They did well last year. This year it's different. Inflation has shut down. They're not as full as they thought they'd be. Red says that he thought it would be way busier, and it's been pretty busy, but we still got empty sites here on all 3 campgrounds that we run on 4th of July weekend. So that tells you people are just not, they can't pay $4.45 a gallon of gas, which is what it is here. It's $3.89 to $4.45. It's pretty expensive now. I'm not sure how we're going to, travel much. If he keeps doing this, we'll have to find a way to stay still. But I did want to speak to this. Nobody else seems to be talking about the host situation as full-time travelers. So that's it. He's off doing rounds. Hopefully he'll be back soon. He won't run into any other issues. It was 3 hours yesterday for what should have taken an hour. Anyway, sun's coming out. Love you. Bye. Watch your head.